Bond terminology is ultimately what gives students the most problems. Sometimes you'll have to make some assumptions based on how the question is worded. So here's a stereotypical sort of a bond question. XYZ company has a 10% bond with semi-annual payments which matures in 12 years. The market rate for bonds of this risk is currently 8%. What is the price of this bond? The key to solving the question like this is identifying the relevant information and then organizing it into our time value of money computation. PV is our price, and that's unknown. That's what we're solving for. The face value is not stated. So here's something important. We're going to make an assumption about the face value. We're going to assume that it's $1,000. This is true for most corporate bonds in the United States. They will have a face value of $1,000. So if the problem does not say something different, you will use $1,000 for the face value. N is the number of periods. In this case, it's a semi-annual 12-year bond, so we've got 24 semi-annual periods. 12 years times 2 periods each is 24. I is going to be the yield, which is the return that's demanded by investors. Now remember, if we have semi-annual periods, we have a semi-annual yield. So we're going to take that return that's demanded and divide it by the number of periods per year. What the problem says is the market rate for bonds of this risk is currently 8%. So if that's what the market is demanding from bonds like this, then we're going to be looking at a yield of 8%, and we're going to make that a semi-annual number for our computation. So we'll divide it by 2, and it becomes 4% semi-annual. The coupon payment, remember, is going to be a percentage times our face value. Now, we figured out that our face value is $1,000. And that very first sentence in the problem says, XYZ company has a 10% bond. That 10% bond, that's an expression that means that it has a 10% coupon rate. So in this case, our face value times our coupon rate divided by the number of periods per year is going to be $1,000 face value times the 10% coupon rate divided by 2. So each payment is going to be $50. When we enter that information into a financial calculator, it lets us find the answer. When we solve for PV given the inputs that we have, our calculator is going to show us a negative $1,152 and almost 47 cents. So negative 1152.4696. The negative sign is only there to tell us that that's a cash outflow. In other words, this is the amount of money that an investor is willing to lay out in order to receive the cash flows from this bond. And there are going to be cash flows coming in from the annual payments, and there will be cash flows coming in from the face value at the end of the life of that bond. So it's not that the bond has a negative value, it's simply that the calculator is going to indicate that this is a cash outflow. Here's another bond question. XYZ company has a 10% semi-annual bond, which matures in 12 years and is selling for $1,050. What is the yield of this bond? In this case, we've got a different item that we're trying to solve for. So we're going to solve for I. We're given what the price is. Remember, we put in $1,050 with a minus sign in front of it, so our calculator knows that that's a cash outflow. Face value is still $1,000. The payment is still $50. We've still got 24 semi-annual periods, but I is unknown. This is what we're solving for. When we solve for I, it's going to give us a semi-annual answer of 4.6499, so almost 4.65% semi-annually. In order to annualize that, we multiply it by 2. So the yield on this bond is going to be 9.2998%, almost 9.3%. Here's one more. XYZ company has a 10% bond with semi-annual payments which matures in 12 years and is selling for $1,000. What's the value of this bond? In this case, the price and the face value are both $1,000. As I said before, this means the bond is selling at par. And this also means that the yield is going to be equal to the coupon rate. So to test this, you plug in the figures. The PV, or the price, is going to be negative 1,000. FV, or face value, is going to be positive 1,000. 24 semi-annual periods. $50 semi-annual payments. When we solve for I is going to give us 5%, which is a semi-annual rate. We double that and we come back with the 10% that we expected to get because the bond is selling at par.